Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the IndieZoNe here on YouTube. My name is Kathy. I'd like to go over two things in this episode. One is, what is the difference between the IndieZoNe on YouTube, which is this platform, and the IndieZoNe Podcast? And second, I'd like to provide you with the answers to the recent quizzes that we have provided on the community page on the Idaho versus Kohberger case to test our knowledge of documents that are available on the public docket. First, regarding the IndieZoNe podcast, about a year ago, I decided to reinstitute a podcast that I had had several years ago, which I stopped doing the end of 2020. And it was on all matters independent music, independent arts, independent books. I stopped in December of 2020 because I got involved in some other things in my life, as we do. And about a year ago, I thought about reinstituting it, and I went over a bunch of different ways that I could, and I finally decided that the best way to do it, the way that interested me most, would be to do a series on true crime, which I've been interested in for many, many years. And at that time, there was only one case that I felt would provide enough content and material to do a podcast special series on, and that is the Idaho versus Kohberger case. Approximately 9 months ago, I began doing episodes on each of the court filings, beginning with the Affidavit of Probable Cause, which is item number 1. Each episode is limited to 5 minutes or less, where I discuss one of the items on the public docket and may give just a couple of opinions, not very much, and then I point you to where you can find that item on the docket. We now have almost 350 episodes available on the podcast. The most recent addresses the documents that dropped on the public docket on the 12th of December. These were the state of Idaho's responses opposing to Mr. Kohberger's filings, seeking motions to suppress evidence and a Franks hearing to compel discovery. We're going to continue doing this through the trial next year, which is scheduled to begin with jury selection July 30th, 2025, pursuant to Judge Hippler's October 9th pretrial and trial order. Now, I'd like to point out that the podcast's home base is on Spotify, and I do hope that you will subscribe to the podcast. It is free of charge. It is also available to you on a multitude of other platforms such as iHeart, Amazon, Listen Notes, and other places where you may be listening to other podcasts. The one on Listen Notes, and I believe also Apple, where the podcast is available as well, has a search engine. So therefore, if you are an independent journalist, if you are a YouTuber, if you're covering the case, if you are interested in the case and want to pull up specific documents from this monster of a docket that has gotten so large as of late that is not searchable, and where the titles of the documents don't tell you necessarily what those documents are comprised of, you could drop in a search term such as IgG, DNA, or Affidavit of Probable Cause, or indictment, and it will return to you the episodes that then will tell you what's in that document in 5 minutes or less and tell you the date and the title of the document. So this will hopefully save you a lot of time in trying to find these items on the state of Idaho's docket itself. Secondly, because we deal with facts, not fiction, here on the IndieZoNe, both in the podcast and on YouTube, what we do from time to time is offer pop quizzes on the documents on the case. And you can find them on the community page where we have, over the past, I think, a couple of weeks, 3 weeks, started to ask various pop quiz questions on the case of Idaho for Idaho v. Kohberger. And I want to give a spoiler alert now. If you haven't already taken the quiz, please do so. It just takes a few moments, and then maybe come back to get the answers here. But I want to go ahead and give the answers to those who have taken it to test their knowledge of the case. The first that was just put up on the community page yesterday made the inquiry of who signed the order finding probable cause leading to Mr. Kohberger's arrest in Idaho versus Kohberger. Was it Magistrate Judge Megan E. Marshall, Judge John Judge, Judge Mark Monson, Judge Stephen Hippler? Those were the four proposed answers. The correct is the first. Magistrate Judge Megan E. Marshall signed the order finding probable cause on December 29th, 2022. It is one of the initial filings in the case. The others are the Affidavit of Probable Cause that was signed by Detective Brett Payne under penalty of perjury on the 29th of December 2022, that then was referenced and attached to the complaint that was taken out against Mr. Kohberger, signed by the Latah County prosecuting attorney, Mr. Bill Thompson, also on the 29th of December 2022. That in turn was presented to the magistrate judge, who then found probable cause. She references the Affidavit of Probable Cause in her order. She also entered an order seeking the arrest of Mr. Kohberger with no bail. Those are the original documents on the docket. You can find them in the Idaho cases of judicial interest at the very top of the docket. The next question, and made the inquiry. According to the Affidavit of Probable Cause, again, this is document number 1 on the docket, in Idaho versus Kohberger, the timeline of the crimes at 1122 King Road are estimated to be between number 1, 4 o'clock and 4:25 a.m., number 2, 4:05 to 4:20 a.m., number 3, 3 o'clock to 3:30 a.m., number 4, 2:45 to 3:01 a.m. And if you look at the Affidavit of Probable Cause at the top of page 5, you will see a notation by Detective Payne that the law enforcement officials felt that the crimes occurred between 4 o'clock and 4:25 a.m. And of course, this is back on November 13th, 2022. Again, you can find that response, that answer, in the Affidavit of Probable Cause. It is the first item on the docket in Idaho versus Kohberger. It was signed by Detective Brett Payne on the 29th of December 2022. And that is the document, ladies and gentlemen, that led directly to the criminal complaint being taken out that day and the order of probable cause being found by Judge Megan E. Marshall. The next, the May 2023 indictment returned by the grand jury in the Idaho versus Kohberger case charges the defendant, Mr. Kohberger, with how many felonies? Number 1, 4, number 2, 5, number 6, number 3, 6, or number 4, 7. Again, how many felonies does the grand jury, this is the state indictment, it was returned and filed May 16th, 2023. You can find it on the docket. How many felonies were Mr. Kohberger charged with? Answer number 1, 4, number 2, 5, number 3, 6, or number 4, 7. The correct answer is 5. The first charge, these are all first-degree felonies, was burglary. And then the 4 counts for the unalivings of the students are the next four for a total of 5. And the crimes are listed as burglary number 1, Madison Mogan number 2, Kaylee Gongalves number 3, Xana Kernodle number 4, and Ethan Chapin number 5. And there has been some discussion as to why the crimes are listed in that way. Is it according to date of birth? Because that's correct. Or is it some other reason? Is that where law enforcement feels, or how law enforcement feels the crimes occurred? We don't know. We do know that a burglary had to happen first. There had to have been an unlawful entry into the property before the rest of the horrendous crimes could have occurred. So there's some speculation as to that's why the crimes are listed in that manner. We're going to have to, I guess, wait until trial to find out, due to the immense secrecy, as I call it, of the case and all of the documents that are under seal, and of course the gag order, the anti-dissemination order that's been in effect since this matter was in Latah County. And finally, the fourth is Mr. Kohberger is currently seeking the entry of an order from Judge Stephen Hippler granting him a Franks hearing. Franks refers to a, number 1, Supreme Court of Idaho case, number 2, Idaho Appellate Court case, number 3, Supreme Court of the United States case, number 4, the U.S. Appellate Court case. The correct answer is number 3. This is a Supreme Court of the United States case. If you'd like to look it up, it is entitled Jerome Franks versus State of Delaware. In the U.S. Reporter, it can be found at 438 U.S., page number 154. That's where it starts. It is a 1978 United States Supreme Court case. It gives the test that Mr. Kohberger, who is seeking a Franks hearing, must meet. It's a high standard, ladies and gentlemen, in order to even qualify for a Franks hearing. If you would like to learn more about the Franks case itself, what Mr. Kohberger's burden of proof is, we did an episode here on the IndieZoNE on YouTube going over all of the above just a few days ago. So please listen to it if you have an interest in the Franks versus Delaware case and what Mr. Kohberger's burden of proof is in qualifying for a hearing. This will now conclude this episode of the IndieZoNE on YouTube. My name is Kathy. Thank you as always for joining us here today.